We take it one day, one step at a time, one day at a time, not 1 week at a time. We take it one day at a time, and then eventually that accumulates to a week. And then we do it one day at a time again, and eventually that accumulates to 2 weeks. And then we keep doing it one day at a time. You have to start small. Okay, we are back. Let's jump right in. So, I don't know about you guys, but I personally, this year, have had a really hard time with seasonal depression. And I say that lightheartedly, but I also say that wholeheartedly. Like, genuinely, I'm struggling. And I do most of the time around this time of year. February is tough. I live in the Midwest. I live in Kansas City. And so we deal with the 4 seasons. I don't like winter. I deal with it. And around mid-February, it becomes very hard because while we have seen the sun, we haven't really felt the sun on us in months. And the snow and the cold make it really hard to get outside. And I know people say you should just get outside. Like, there's no such thing as bad weather. There's only bad clothing. I understand that. But when I am outside and it's cold, I am miserable and I hate it. Okay. So it's hard. And this time of year, I usually end up with a little bit of the seasonal blues, if you will. But this year it's been really hard on me. Like, exceptionally hard. Like, I'm dealing with the thoughts of, what is the point? Why do I get out of bed every morning? Why work? Why try to make money? Like, there's no way to get ahead. I feel like I can't win anything. I cannot get ahead. So why even try? And I know, deep down, I know that that's not true. I know that as soon as it's 60 degrees or warmer out there, my whole mentality is going to change. And I'm going to feel the go-getter again. And I'm going to feel like I'm hustling and bustling. And I'm going to be excited about it. And I know that these thoughts are a lie. But they win. And so most years, I have routines in place. And I have things in place to help combat this and help stay ahead of it. But this year specifically, I have had a really hard time staying ahead of it. And so the last few weeks, I've been thinking about why that might be. Okay, so the obvious thing is I got divorced. So everything has changed. Everything has changed. And while everything at its core is better, like, my mental health as a whole is better now than it has been the last 5 years or more. 4 or 5 years. My mental health is better. Overall, I am happier. I am healthier. I am clearer. I don't have the brain fog, the stress, the anxiety that I used to have. It's still there, but I am better. So what is making the seasonal blues so much worse? And I think the answer is my routine. I think the answer is simply that I have not built a new routine. I have to some extent, but because of the way my custody schedule is, it is hard to, I live a double life. It's hard to maintain a consistent routine Monday through Sunday. What ends up happening is Monday and Tuesday, I'm this person and I do this routine. Wednesday and Thursday, I do this routine. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, depending on if the kids are here or not, I do a different routine. And so it ends up feeling like my weeks are so broken up and it's not one full fluid thing, right? So before, when I was married, I would get up at 4:45 in the morning and I would go to the gym. I'd be at the gym at 5. I'd work out from 5 to 6, 6:15. I'd come home. I'd get ready for the day. I'd get my kids ready for the day. We'd go. And then I would wake up and do it all over again. At night, I would lay down on my acupressure mat. I would do my face routine, brush my teeth. I would read, and I would go to bed. And that was the routine. I did it day in and day out. Now, I could do that because my ex-husband was there, right? He was there to be able to take care of the kids when I was at the gym. I didn't have to leave them home alone, right? Which I would never do. And at night, I was able to do the regimented routine each night because there was help. It wasn't just me. Now, my routine is all broken up. As I said, it's broken up into different segments of the week depending on if the kids are here or not. And when they are here, I can't count on the routine because it is just me. It is just me and the kids. And so if they need me, any routine I thought I was going to do is out. I'm there to help them. And that's hard. That is very, very hard. And so I think that has played a huge role in me not being able to stay ahead of the seasonal blues. So I was on Instagram the other day and this reel popped up, and it was another divorce account. And this guy he basically just wrote a paragraph on this reel about how when you are in, like, it's one thing to rebuild a routine. Say I'm doing this routine and I want to pivot and I want to do something entirely different. So I rebuild. That's hard in and of itself. But when you're in a serious committed relationship and or you're married and you break up or get divorced, you are not only rebuilding a routine, you're also breaking up with the concepts of a committed relationship routine, right? It is different to build a routine in a committed relationship versus as a single person or as a single parent or whatever, and in a committed relationship routine is different, completely different than in a committed relationship with children routine. And a single person with no kids routine is very, very different than a single person with kids routine, right? It's all very different. They're all different subcategories of routine. So to go from single person routine to new single person routine is tough. But then when you throw in single person routine to single person routine with kids, you're throwing in so many more dynamics that are just different. And so specifically within breakups, reestablishing a routine is incredibly hard. And I've experienced that this year. It's been very, very hard for me to rebuild my routine. At the beginning of the divorce, I had basically said that I'm not going to work out when my kids are here, which is nonsense. Sometimes I have them 5 days a week. How am I supposed to get a decent workout schedule in when I'm only going to the gym 2 days a week? That's nonsense, but it's hard to rebuild. I had to break up with the idea that I had to be in the gym at 5 a.m. 5 days a week for it to be good. I had to break up with that idea because with that idea in my head, I couldn't justify going to the gym 4 days a week on different schedules every single day, right? Some days I go at 6 a.m., some days I go at 5 a.m., some days I go at 6 p.m. And it didn't work in my head because I had to, in order for that to work in my head, I had to break up with the idea that I had to go at 5 a.m. 5 days a week. And that's hard. I not only broke up with a person, I broke up with an idea of what my ideal schedule was. And I'm still breaking up with that. I'm still trying to rebuild and trying to reestablish a routine here. Now, I have always been a morning person. Morning is when, if I get up early in the morning and I start my day pouring into myself, I always do better than when I don't. My days just go smoother. I am happier. I am healthier. It is easier for me to pour out to everybody else if I start my day pouring into myself. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. Mornings are hard. That doesn't mean that waking up at 5 a.m., at 4:30 a.m. is easy. It does mean that it makes me a better person, though. So it's worth it. And since the divorce, since the breakup, it's been really hard for me to reestablish my morning routine. I've been all over the place. And in it, my sleep schedule has changed drastically. Instead of going to bed at 9 o'clock, I go to bed at 11 a lot, sometimes midnight. So then instead of waking up at 4:30 or 5, I am waking up at 6:30 or 7. And now working from home 3 days a week, it's entirely different. I sleep in even more because I can get up and start working whenever I want. So I was thinking about this the last few weeks, and I think that the lack of routine and the lack of pouring into myself before I pour out for other people has been very impactful on my seasonal depression, on the seasonal blues. And so this is me wanting to be accountable, wanting you guys to hold me accountable to reestablishing this routine. And so then I wanted to talk about, how do you reestablish a routine? Okay, so excuses are always easy to find. You can always find excuses. I can find an excuse to not wake up because my little girl sleeps in my bed now because we have 2 bedrooms and she is too scared to sleep in the other room. So she sleeps with me. It's a long story. So I don't get up because I don't want to wake her up. Well, she's a heavy sleeper. She's a heavy sleeper. I could get up and she would stay asleep. This morning, I picked her up and she was still asleep. She didn't wake up. Okay, that's an excuse. Or I would say I wouldn't get up at 4:30 because my son is a light sleeper and he'll wake up. Okay, well, what happens if he does wake up? Then he wakes up. He starts his day early too. There's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. And he'll learn. He'll learn that waking up that early and going to bed at the time that he goes to bed is not going to work. So he'll either want to go to bed earlier or he'll start staying in bed. He'll learn. He'll adjust. It's okay. Those are excuses. That is my brain making an excuse to not get up in the morning because it's uncomfortable to get out of bed in the morning. Whether it's what's best for me or not, it's uncomfortable. And so my brain's like, find excuses. So excuses are always easy to find. It's always easy to say, I'm going to start next week. I'm going to start next week. That's what I've been saying since like November. I'm going to do it next week. Well, newsflash, it's mid-February and I still haven't done it. Okay, so there's 2 things, 2 concepts that I tell my coaching clients when we talk about this, when we talk about establishing new routines. These are 2 things that I always make sure to hone in on. Okay, so number 1 is we want to start small. When we overwhelm our brain with the big picture and we are only thinking big picture, like I want to do this new routine, that's overwhelming. Whether you think it is or not, it's overwhelming to reestablish an entire new routine. So let's start small. Let's break it down. Let's say your end goal is to have a new routine of, let's say the new routine, let's just do mine, is to work out in the morning at 5 o'clock every morning. Okay, so let's start small. Instead of getting up every single morning and working out, let's set a goal for 1 week. We're just going to get up at 5. We're going to get up at 5 tomorrow. And then the next day we're going to get up at 5. And then the next day we're going to get up at 5. And honestly, 1 week might be overwhelming. So let's break it down even further. Let's say tomorrow, just tomorrow, I'm going to get up at 5. So I did this week. So not last night. Last night I fell off and we'll talk about that. But the night before, on Monday night, I set my alarm clock. I have a little analog, whatever, alarm clock, or not, digital alarm clock. And I set it and I put it across the room. I put it across the room so that when it went off, I had to get up out of bed and I had to go turn it off. And then I'm already out of bed, so you might as well stay out of bed. So I set it and I got up at 5 a.m. and I turned it off. And then I started my day. Okay, so then this morning, I didn't. But now tonight, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to set it for 5 a.m. and I'm going to get up. And I'm going to, if I go to the gym, great. That is my end goal, is to do that in the mornings at 5. If I don't and I just stay here and read a book, that's okay too. I'm doing the thing. I'm getting up at 5. Okay, so then do that for a week. And then the next week, we get up at 5 and we go move our body. Whether we go to the gym or we go for a walk or we go downstairs and work out in the garage gym, whatever it is, we do that for a week. Okay, so then the next week we commit to the thing. We commit to getting up, going to the gym. We're up, we're going to the gym. And we take it one day, one step at a time, one day at a time. Not 1 week at a time. We take it one day at a time, and then eventually that accumulates to a week. And then we do it one day at a time again, and eventually that accumulates to 2 weeks. And then we keep doing it one day at a time. You have to start small and just keep going. So that's one concept, right? That's one concept of starting small. Keep the big picture in mind, but focus on the day-to-day, one day at a time. Okay, so then the second concept is it cannot be an all or nothing mentality. You cannot think, I have to do this day in and day out in order to be successful. You have to get rid of that because you're going to fail. You're going to. You're human and you don't like being uncomfortable. Sometimes you just want to be comfortable. You're going to fail. That's okay. Now, you don't want to fail day in and day out, but you're going to fail and you have to have grace for that. So it cannot be an all or nothing. So Monday night, I set my alarm, and Tuesday morning, I got up and I turned it off. Well, Tuesday night, I forgot to set my alarm. I stayed up a little later than I should have. And this morning, I knew I didn't have to go to school at a certain time because I work from home today. And so I didn't get up. Now, I could fold. I could say, shoot, I failed again. We'll start again next week. But I'm not going to because I know it's not all or nothing. I did it one day. I took a day off. Now tonight, I'm going to do it. And then the next day, I'm going to do it. And the next day, I'm going to do it. And somewhere in there, I might fail, but I'm going to jump right back on the horse the next day because that is what's going to override my current routine. Doing it day in and day out is going to override the current routine. The current routine might peek through every now and then, but I'm overriding. Okay? And eventually, as you do these things for 20, 30, 40, 50 days in a row, or 50 days mostly in a row, suddenly it becomes easier. It doesn't become comfortable because waking up at 4 a.m. or at 5 a.m. is not comfortable, but it does become habitual. And you won't think to yourself, man, it'd be nice to sleep in. The longer you build the routine, the more you're just focused on the routine. You're like, no, we just get up at 5 because we get up at 5. Whereas right now, because I'm so fresh on it, on rebuilding this routine, I think, man, it would be nice to sleep in. This bed's cozy. I should just stay in bed. You have to override that. And you have to override it. You have to commit to the long game and override it for a long time before you no longer suddenly have to override it. Eventually one day you wake up and you don't feel like you need to override that feeling. Instead, it's just, we're getting up at 5 because that's what we do. So reestablishing routines is hard. But if we do it in a non-overwhelming way for ourselves, it's possible and we can do it. So I am this week and next week and the next couple of months, I am rebuilding my routine and I am going to become a morning person again. It's not going to look the same as what it did when I was married. I know that, and I have come to peace with that, and I've broken up with that idea. And I'm going to rebuild what my morning routine will look like as a single mom with 50% custody. So come along in this journey with me. I'd love it. If you're trying to build a new routine, I want to hear about it. Comment below. Let me know what you want to build. This is part of what I do as a personal trainer, is help people reestablish routines to build lifestyles. We don't just want a 30-day fix. We don't just want a 60-day fix. We want to build a lifestyle that's going to last forever. And so that's what we're doing. We're building routines that are building a lifestyle to last as long as we want them to, until we're ready to pivot to a new routine. Tell me what you're changing. Tell me any thoughts you may have. Give me a comment, like it, share it with a friend, and go ahead and hit subscribe. I'd love to have you follow along. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good day.